Hi there everyone, and welcome once again to the Novel Strip Show, this channel where I discuss my thoughts on books and comics that I've read. What I'd like to do today, I'm going to try a different format for this. What I'm doing is I'm just recording some audio, and rather than show copies of the books, I thought I'd put pictures up of them. So if you prefer this format, if you think it looks nicer, if you prefer watching this video as opposed to the others where I just kind of record me showing you the books as I'm talking, please do let me know, and I can make more videos like this in the future. This wasn't a creative choice. I decided that I wanted to make these videos in chronological order. I'm currently talking about the books that I read in February 17, or that's what I will be talking about in this video. And I realised that I only have one of them with me currently. So it would be a pretty boring video if I just showed one book. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to put pictures of them up. Why don't I just try the whole video with pictures? Then I can just record the audio, and that might look a bit nicer. Might be a bit quicker as well. So we'll give it a go and see what you think. So yeah, let's crack on. So this is what I read back in February 2017. Just a brief summary if you've not seen my previous videos. I'm going back and reflecting on when I started the 50 book a year challenge back in January 2017, talking about the books that I read then, seeing if I still think the same about the books as I did back then, or if my opinions have changed. So yeah, let's crack on. So I'll go in order of books that I least liked to books that I liked most. First off then was the Da Vinci Code. So although this is in last place, I actually I enjoyed this a lot more than I thought I would, especially at the start. From the very first page, I really was hooked, and I did really want to find out more. Throughout it does become very kind of long, rambling. It's not particularly accurate, and it is, a lot of it is portrayed as in it is not 100% fiction, etc. I'm sure everyone's aware of the controversy around it. Basically, if you just read it to enjoy it, if you just read it as kind of knowing what it is, not expecting too much of it, just kind of wanting a thriller, I think it does its job pretty well. Dan Brown's writing style, a lot of people dislike it, a lot of people think it's very dumbed down. I don't mind it personally. I definitely read better, but I think, in terms of getting you to read quickly, not having to pay too much attention, moving everything along very quickly and making you want to carry on reading, it definitely did that for me. So definitely not the best book I've ever read in terms of the writing. However, it did make me want to carry on reading. And yeah, it was what I'd call a page turner. I think there's definitely a place for that. Sometimes you just, you need that, rather than reading something that's very heavy going and beautifully written, but just gets, kind of bogs you down a bit. You just want to whiz through something. And yeah, I would say it's not a bad place to go if you want something like that. So I gave it 3 stars originally. That's what it holds on Goodreads just now for me. And I think I'd probably keep that the same, to be honest. Next up then, we have Hunger Games. So I actually read all 3 books from the series. So Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and... God, what's the last one? Mockingjay. There we go. Sorry, it took a while there. So I actually read these all in February 2017, and it... Yeah, I actually really enjoyed it. I'm not a fan of YA, young adult fiction in general. I find it often annoys me in how it's dumbed down, how it's very, seems to be very, very formulaic. There's often a romance element, which I can't stand. It just makes me want to cringe. And I think a lot of the time as well, especially in YA, the characters are just stupid. They just act in ways that people wouldn't actually act, and whether they're young or not, I don't think that's an excuse. I certainly didn't act the way most YA characters did when I was younger, and I think, to be honest, I really like protagonists in lots of different series, YA or not, but I think with series geared towards young adults, I find them even more infuriating because of the choices they make and the way they act. And I would say overall, I really enjoyed Hunger Games because it didn't kind of fall into a lot of the traps that I think a lot of YA does. That makes me dislike it. I definitely enjoyed reading it. It was good pacing. It's really quick. I mean, I don't read half as much as many booktubers, but I I managed to read all 3 books in the 1 month. So yeah, definitely a quick read there, but still really enjoyable and really good. So for the series overall, I would rate it 4 stars, I would say. On Goodreads, I rated each of the individual books. The first and last I gave 4 stars, and the second one I gave 5 stars. I just kind of remember the story as a whole now, especially because I read them all together. I don't really see them as separate books. I couldn't tell you where one started and one ended. They're just all one thing of the Hunger Games to me. And I think overall, it's not the most amazing thing I've ever read. I think there are definitely bits that could have been improved. I think a lot of that is because it is targeted to a young adult sort of teenagery audience. But yeah, I definitely really liked it. So I think 4 stars overall is a fair rating there. The next book then is actually a book that I really, really enjoyed. This was given to me as a present from a friend. I asked her for reading recommendations because she was much more into reading than I ever was, and she recommended this to me. It also happened to be recommended by a second friend as well, when I asked her for reading recommendations, and they were both absolutely right. It's an incredible book, and I actually absolutely loved it. So that's The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This was her debut novel. It certainly doesn't feel like a debut novel, and especially I haven't read her subsequent novel yet, The Goldfinch, but I hear that it's not quite as refined as Secret History could have been. As Secret History was. I haven't read it, so I don't want to comment too much, but I think, yeah, Secret History definitely doesn't come across as a debut novel. It's incredibly well written, and it's very interesting because right from the start, basically, just to go briefly into the plot, you know that this group has killed someone, and you, if I remember rightly, you even know who it is as well. Either way, it's kind of more about their motives behind why they did it, how it happened, and how it affects the dynamic of the group. So it's very, very much about the characters rather than a whodunit. There's not really any kind of mystery element. It's more about how it affects each of the characters, how they interact with one another, and envisaging this college that they study classical Greek in and stuff. I actually studied classical Greek from GCSE to A level. So I found it incredibly interesting, all the tiny elements of it where they write secret messages to each other or speak secret messages in Greek and stuff. I found that fascinating. But I don't think you need to know anything about classics or have ever studied classical Greek or Latin to appreciate the book. However, it was just another element for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I gave that 5 stars, and I would definitely keep the same. I'm actually really eager to reread it as well, just to see upon rereading it if my opinion changes or if I maybe like it even less or even more. But definitely, yeah, I would say quite a literary book in that it focuses mainly on the characters and the development of characters and them rather than a specific story. The final book that I read in February 2017 was Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. And this is one of my favourite books ever. It's certainly my favourite book by Neil Gaiman. He's probably one of the authors that I read his work, and even though a lot of it's quite different, I, in general, like most of it. Neverwhere, however, is just a step above for me. It was a great story. It had a great plot element. However, the characters were also interesting enough, different enough, kind of wacky enough, but not unbelievable. For me to really, really enjoy it, to be able to envisage the world. It was, I am originally from London, but I live in Scotland now, and it kind of starts with the reverse. It's about a Scottish bloke living in London. And so that just kind of made it appeal to me even more. There are two Londons, so there's the London above, which we all know, and then there's the London below. And Richard Mayhew, who's the main character, gets dragged down to the world below. And yeah, that's where the kind of supernatural element comes in. So really, really interesting. I really, really liked it. I think the characters are all very well developed, but the story is well developed as well. There are kind of twists there, things that you might not expect. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. So definitely gave it 5 stars, but I also added it to my favourite shelf on Goodreads as well. And I would definitely recommend it to everyone. And the reason I don't have it at the moment is because I've given it to my partner to read. So yeah, definitely would recommend it to kind of anyone. But yeah, really, really good book. And that was it. So that was everything that I read in February 17. Love to hear any comments or any thoughts that you have on these books as well. And thanks very much for watching.